Welcome to Align to Your Design. I'm your host, Beth Davis. Isn't it time to wrap your business around your purpose and bring your greatest work to the world? Each week, join me as we explore various biometric tools such as human design and hand analysis and how to use them to fulfill your destiny and align to your design. We will reveal how to do the work you are designed to do rather than what you think you should do.
Hi.
Oh, so great to see you.
You are glowing. What is different?
Well, number one, it is the fall time, and I just love how the seasons are showing us how easy it is to drop the shit that's weighing us down. It was 10 years ago that my dad died and our house flooded. And I remember walking outside and looking at the trees and saying, how do you transform? How do you drop what you don't need? And the trees said, watch us, we'll teach you. And so, it's almost exactly 10 years. And so I'm looking out there and I'm just seeing the creative process. And part of the creative process is dropping the stuff that doesn't serve us, that we don't want to carry anymore, that has served our growth, and it falls and it becomes the fodder, the compost, the nourishment for the next generation. So that's one thing that I know, that I've dropped a lot of stuff. And, in the last 3 years, especially since the pandemic, what an amazing time. For me, I'm an introvert and I'm a maverick and I like to do my own thing. And I actually loved the pandemic. I didn't love that so many people were dying, but I loved that there was no pressure to go outside and meet people and do this superficial da-di-da-di-da. And so I spent a lot of time painting. And so can I show you some of my paintings?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And actually, when I started this painting, I started it blindfolded.
Oh my gosh.
When the first layer of this painting, I took two colors. They were random colors. They were colors that I just liked. And the very first two layers of this painting were yellow and purple, interestingly, because these are like the colors of the night sky. And I was blindfolded and I had no idea the marks that I was going to make on the canvas. And what I drew with the blindfold on looked like the Big Bang. It really looked like the explosion from the singularity. And this to me is like the Divine Mother. There's the lotus over here, right? No mud, no lotus. It's all about the shadow work. There are all these dots, which are all the different photons of light that are moving through us. There's this, Kundalini energy. There over here is the spiral, right? The Fibonacci, how she's birthing herself from the all that is. Every universe does that. Our bones grow in that shape. Everything, like the whole toric field, is a big spiral right here. It's so big, it's bumping up against the ceiling. This place where there's all this gold pouring out right here, this is, the universe. This is we're originally a whole vessel, and then we smash on Earth. And there's a teaching, a Kabbalistic teaching about how we're, reconnecting all of our broken parts. And so this is before the conditioning.
The vessels.
Right, the unbroken vessel. And you can see that there's like the universe pouring out of it. There's all this gold, all these streams of gold in her hand. She's holding a goldfinch, which of course is a symbol of gold and fluidity and Christ consciousness. So I just love all the symbolism that came through. And, when I painted this, I had no idea what it was. But this one,
wow,
is, when I look at it this way,
through the veil. Sorry to interrupt. I'm like, wow.
This one, I see a little baby and she's like right at the birth canal.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
She's about to be birthed. But look at when you turn it this way. It looks like a horse and a unicorn, which of course is me. Like it's a unicorn.
Thank you for
it's
sharing
the horse
that.
of a different color, right?
So I want to know, so Deborah, what happened? Like, have you always done art? How did this come about? Tell us how that happened.
I've had so many breakthroughs and realizations in the process of allowing myself to paint. So in my first year of business, which was the year that you and I met, in 2015, I created a vision board. And on that vision board, I put a paint palette. And I also put that I was going to be one of the guests on John Assaraf's Neurogym. And I put some other things, all of which I did. So, the painting wasn't something that I had ever allowed myself to do. I did paint a lot when I was a little girl. And then I shut it down. I shut down all my creativity. And I have a couple of really distinct moments that arose in the process of me painting. And one of them was I was a very little girl. I was probably 3 or 4. And I have a big sister who's a year and 11 days older than I am. And she had one of those boxes of Crayola crayons with the 64 crayons and a little crayon sharpener in the back. And she didn't want me to touch it because me being little would break the crayons. If you're a big sister, you probably are familiar with that. And I did break the crayons. It's true, because I was so exuberant. And so one morning I got up early and everybody was asleep. So I tiptoed out into the living room and I can just see myself in my underpants and I'm totally naked. And there was the box of Crayola crayons because my sister hadn't put it away. And so I opened the crayons and I was like, 64 colors. Oh, it's so pretty. And I dumped them all on the floor so I could see them even better. And there were lots of pencil shape, crayon shavings all over the floor. And I was super excited about all the beauty of the mess and the color. And then I picked a crayon in each hand. And actually, I told you that painting started in yellow and purple. In my childhood drawing, I picked yellow and purple in my memory. And I'm like drawing all over the living room wall because there's this huge white canvas just for me. And I painted this big garden with flowers and clouds and birds and blue sky. And then I scribbled a whole bunch of grass. And it was just this masterpiece. And then my mom and my sister came out. Deborah, what have you done? And I was in such big trouble. And my sister was like, how dare you? Those are my crayons and you can't touch my crayons. And I was in big trouble. And my mom was like, go to your room, think about what you've done. And I'm like, and it just like was this traumatic moment of I was just being my creative self.
How old were you?
Little self. 3 or 4.
Oh, you're a little kid.
Yeah, I was totally a little kid.
Having a ball.
But I did color all over the entire white.
Well, you were 3. And they hadn't told you couldn't.
Well, I don't know if we were renting the house. I have no idea. I didn't know you weren't supposed to color on the wall. I just thought, oh, the world is my canvas. And you know what? The world is your canvas. Like, this is now what I teach to everybody is that you project what you see on the world all the time, So anyhow, I had shut down this part of myself and that memory came percolating up. And I realized, oh my gosh, I'm so afraid if I'm super creative, I won't be loved. And then there was this other moment that was probably 20 years ago. And my sister and I attended a workshop together. And it was called something like Love the Life You Live or some personal development-y topic like that. And I remember that the guy who led us in a meditation. And we were invited to, I don't even know how I came up with, maybe it was a meditation about creativity, meditate about creativity. So I had a memory of me as a little girl. Now I'm about 6 or 7 and I'm with a big easel and I'm wearing one of my dad's shirts. It's a really big oversized shirt and it's monogrammed JEF and I have paint all over it. And it's so big, it's down to my knees. And I have an easel with newspaper on the floor and I'm, painting and splattering and I'm by myself in a corner making my art. And my sister and my dad are playing with a chemistry set, or they're playing with a rock polishing set, or they're playing with the calculator, or they're playing with a microscope or whatever. My sister has my dad's attention. So I thought, oh, nobody loves me because I'm so creative. I'm stuck over here in a corner by myself. And my sister had a completely different thing come up for her, which was Deborah's so creative. She gets all the kudos in the family because she's so creative. So, it was this interesting dynamic of like, we're not both allowed to be creative, or creativity and love were somehow, mixed up. If I'm so creative, I won't be loved. Or if I'm so creative, I'm taking too much love and I shouldn't do that. So there was a whole bunch of, scarcity programming and conditioning and not enoughness wrapped up in this exuberant creativity that I'm made of. And it's taken me decades to reclaim that and uncork that and really let that lead my life and my business and everything that I do, from the food that I eat to the way I dress to how I talk to, how I run my business to how I make money. I create things and then put them into the marketplace.
Mm, mm. And what have you been experimenting with your clients now that you've unleashed your inner painter?
Well, what's coming? I haven't done it yet. What's coming in November and December is I'm going to start teaching intentional creativity. I'm going to start teaching painting and how that actually changes our brain. There is a ton of research about how moving your body and using your creativity and using your voice and using color and using music and using mantra and using both hands, so you're interrupting dominant paradigms. There are lots of ways that I've come up with, lots of techniques and processes that will literally change your brain. And you immediately see your projection when you paint, because you start with a blank canvas. In the same way that when you're a writer, you start with a blank page. In the same way that when you're a human, the whole world is a blank screen upon which you project your desires and your disappointments and your wounds and your celebrations, right? Everything is reflecting back to you a quality of you that either you know about and you're like, yay, or a quality that you've disowned and judged and shamed and rejected, and then you don't like that so much. But all of it's really our mirror. And in my work as a money coach, I've always said that money is your mirror. We project our stuff onto money, but very often people don't realize, well, the stuff that I'm projecting onto money, they say, oh, well, it's just money. Like everything else in my life is fine. And I'm like, maybe not. Like, let's go a little deeper in there, because the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So when we're projecting onto a canvas, we immediately see, like, as I just shared with you, there's a belief of, I'm not allowed to do that. I can't be that big. And even, the canvas I showed you that was so big, it barely even fits in my office. Every time I paint on a canvas that's that big, it's about 3 feet by 4 feet, I have this inner angst of, that's too big. I can't take up that much space. And I just notice, I get to notice that's a condition, right? That's part of the patriarchal conditioning that I believe all women carry all around the world. Is it's not safe for me to take up that much space. It's not safe for me to be that big. It's not safe for me to be that loud. It's not safe for me to make these marks in this way. So I'm confronting, it's very confronting. I'm confronting the subconscious paradigm, the dominant paradigm, and I'm really confronting it, and I'm painting it out. I'm bringing the emotion to the canvas. And so it's not about being a great painter. I don't know if I'm a great painter, and it doesn't.
Oh, you are. You have very original imagery. That, to me, that's what makes art great. Whether it's a child or an adult, is it's not derivative. It's like from your soul.
Yes,
you're not copying someone else or trying to be like someone else. You're expressing you. And that's what makes it art, is the authenticity of it. Yes. And that's authentic. What you just showed us, that's authentic.
And that's why I'm bringing it to the money mindset coaching, because authenticity, not derivative, not trying to be somebody else. People are so freaking sick of playing the role of their not self. Right. Oh, I'm trying to do this funnel. I'm trying to automate this thing like so-and-so taught me to do. And I'm like, you know what your funnel is? It's this. It's
right. The universe.
That is my funnel. That is my funnel. And like, when that's your funnel, it doesn't get clogged unless you clog it.
That's right.
It's constantly streaming. And like, you are the stream. It's so fun. It's so liberating. It's so healing. It's so beautiful. So that's what I'm offering next.
Oh my God. So I just got a download for you. Can I share it?
Oh, please.
2 things. So what if you get a canvas that's 3 times that size? And you think about putting together a group mural project to create the largest mural for peace and love the world's ever seen.
Oh, that would be so fun.
Imagine you get all these artists together. You've taken them through your process. They've gone through your program. They're aligned with their authenticity. And then to celebrate, you make this happening and the whole world sees this mural. Because, they make all these memorials to dead people. Bless them. What if we make art for the future we want to live in?
Totally.
And I feel like you're a leader doing that.
I love that. What if we make art for the future we want to live in? Because that's exactly what happens. You know, it's the creative process made real. Everything's
Yeah.
creative
Yeah.
twice. First, in the non-physical. So when I started that one painting and I started it blindfolded, I was in the void. I was in not knowing. I was in the uncertainty, and people are uncomfortable there. And, one of the things I love about this is, let's just put you in an uncomfortable position where the worst thing that can happen is you get paint on the floor, or you get paint on your arm, or, like, why is it so scary? Why is the unknown so scary? Everything is created from the not known. It doesn't exist before we create it. And then we start physicalizing it, and there it is. And so you can actually see the creative process. You can see the transformation from non-physical to physical, from formless to form, from idea to idea, right? Like, the Greek root of the word idea comes from oidos, which is vision. So you see it on the screen of your mind, and then it actually moves out through your hand, and there it is. It's so super cool. The name of the course that I'm going to be teaching, the first course, is called Masterpiece, PEACE. And it's exactly about what you just said. It's about painting the future that you want to live into.
So let me ask you something. What have been some of your biggest tests with money? And then how did you discover that you were here to help people shift that relationship in their life?
Well, I used to be all tied up in knots about money. Every which way, I was tied up in knots. I thought it was terrible to make money. I thought people who had money were jerks. I thought money was sleazy and icky. Like, I had a lot of conditioning around money. And my parents had very different belief systems and different value systems around money. So if I had made money according to one of their belief systems, I would be loved, but not loved by the other. And if I made money according to the other belief system, I would be loved, but not be loved by the other. So I was kind of damned if I do, damned if I don't, in my own internal family system. And then I thought that money was something out there, that you did something in order to get something. I didn't realize that that's a very reactive way of being in relationship with it, because then I have to wait for them to give me my allowance. That was probably my first experience with money. My first experience with money was with my allowance. And even the word allowance, what does that tell you? That tells you that somebody else is giving you permission, right? That's a
I'm
problem.
allowing you.
That is a problem, that we think that money is tied up with somebody else giving you permission. And, I am, and many other people are very interested in disrupting that conditioning that says it's up to other people to give you permission to be your creative self, or it's up to other people to tell you how much it's worth that you made your bed, or how much it's worth that you unloaded the dishwasher, right? Like, we also learn that contributing to a household is something that we should be paid for, instead of like, no, I'm contributing to the household because I live here, right? I'm
Right.
contributing to making the temple that I share with other people that I love a beautiful temple, right? Like we just get all messed up around, I believe, exchanging our natural gifts and talents and skills and contributions. We put a value on them, and that's a problem, because your creativity, it is priceless. The love you're made of, it is priceless. Your happiness, priceless. Your peace, priceless. Like, money is never going to buy those things.
Nope.
And if you think it is, the more money you have, the more unhappy and rickety and turbulent you're going to be, because you're going to be afraid somebody's going to take it from you. And so, I, like many people, went through a process of, I don't want any money. I don't like money. I like to joke that in the beginning, I was what I call a contrapreneur. Like, I was against money. I thought it was
That
bad.
makes it really hard.
What'd you say?
Well, the whole point of entrepreneurship is to generate resources for the tribe. So that belief is going to make you very, very in pain.
Right. I was
Right.
contra it. I was like, I don't want it. I don't want anything to do with it. It's not safe.
Oh,
Because my parents were fighting about money. And so I thought, well, I just don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to be in the middle of the fight. And I was in the middle of my family fight. And many, many people find themselves in the middle of divorce, where they're in the middle of a fight, and often the fight's about money, and then you internalize as a child, it's my fault, or I don't want anything to do with money, I don't like all this fighting, I don't like all this arguing, I don't like all this conflict. So the easiest way to not have arguing and conflict and anger and fighting and betrayal and disappointment is I just won't have anything to do with money because money caused that. Well, incorrect. It's the people who caused that, not the money. Okay, so first I was a contrepreneur, and then I became a mantrapreneur. So I just meditated all the time. I just chanted mantra, and that helped to a certain extent. Didn't get me all the way where I wanted to go. And there is no all the way where I want to go, because I now understand that as an eternal being, my creativity is flowing through me and I'm constantly unfolding, and there's no there, there's only here. Right. So I had to, break through that belief of there's anywhere to get to with it. Mantra is mind track. So I literally trained my mind to see in a different way, to feel and perceive and receive in a different way. And when I fully stepped into entrepreneurship and I started making money, then my nervous system got really reactive, because if you don't make money, your nervous system gets to continue to be in what it perceives as its comfort zone, in its safe zone. If I don't rock the boat by making money, my nervous system doesn't have to react, because I'm not doing it. I'm not betraying this parent or that one. I'll just not make money, and then I will
loyal. You're being very loyal.
Yeah, I'm being very loyal. Yeah, it is a vow of loyalty. So then I started making money, and I broke 6 figures within 5 months. And it was like, oh my God, who am I to make 6 figures at all, ever? But who am I to do it that fast? And who am I to do it as a documentary filmmaker? Filmmakers don't make that kind of money. Like, who am I? Like it was a huge identity crisis. And I had a migraine for 3 days, and I threw up for 3 days, and I just lay down on the bed under my weighted blanket, underneath the down comforter, underneath extra blankets. It was just like I had to put so much weight on top of me, because my soul did not feel safe living in a body. Like, it was just like, I got to be out of here. Nobody's going to be my friend. Who am I? Like, it was really, really uncomfortable. And then eventually my nervous system recalibrated, and it was like, no, I am one of those people. I still have the same values. I still love Mother Earth. I'm still committed to eating organic and riding my bike and living sustainably. And I'm still the same person, but I'm the same person with more resources. And then I did another up level where I think I had a 6-figure month. And again, my whole nervous system, my nervous system response was to throw up. It was like just a rejection of, I can't be that. And it takes some time to do the shadow work and co-regulate the nervous system. It's a lot of intergenerational trauma, really.
Can I interject here, though?
Yeah.
I'm having a thought. Maybe you weren't rejecting it. You were puking out other people's rejection of it. That's why you had such a violent reaction. Right. Your body literally had to detox the toxic thought forms that you'd ingested so that you could go to the next level.
Yes.
And once we're fully integrated, that kind of process, I find, stops happening. Yes. At least with that issue. Yeah. But then you tackle another issue, and then there's more physical releasing. But is that possible, that in fact you were actually transmuting your nervous system?
Yes.
Like integrating by releasing the toxin.
Well,
quickly too. You just puked it out. That's very efficient.
Yes, I would say yes. Yes is the answer. My understanding of this is that rather than puking something out and getting rid of something, there was an integrative process, because from an energetic standpoint, I'm made of energy. And so I can be in a very dispersed form, a gaseous form, a misty form of energy. We call that spacey, we call that airy, right? When the molecules are super far apart. And when the molecules get more and more compressed, I saw this in the anatomy lab. I worked in an anatomy lab for 2 years. And when we get more compressed, then it becomes something like skin. And when it's more compressed, it's something like muscle. And when it's more compressed, it's something like bone. And in the very middle of it is hollow. And so I could see earth, water, fire, air, ether in the body as I was working in the anatomy
Yeah.
lab. And so my understanding now, having had that experience, is that all of the experiences that I have, all the emotions that I have, all the physical reactions that I have are are the universal intelligence, the cosmic consciousness that is getting compressed and compressed and compressed as it's moving through me. And so a very compressed part of me is a part of me like that exuberant wild child who, had a field day with my sister's crayons and then got in big trouble from it and was told, go to your room. I didn't know how to deal with that. I didn't know how to integrate all that creativity. I was afraid of all that energy that I'm made of, all that creative life force I'm made of. I was afraid. And so I just stuffed it somewhere deep down inside of me. And so it got really compressed and it feels like a block. But when I sat with it and I embraced it and I talked to it and I loved it and I just let it be, I didn't make it be wrong or bad. I had a lot of compassion for that little girl. It started to dissolve. And in the same way that an ice cube in warm tea becomes water, ice and water are the same, but they're just in a different vibrational state. So the parts of me that felt rejected or unloved are made of the same energy as
Mm-hmm.
the creative life force. So rather than getting rid of it, I feel like I integrated it, because for a long time I did try to get rid of stuff, but then I never felt whole because the stuff I was getting rid of was actually part of me. I need that stuff for me to be whole, right? I need the part who makes a mess. And as creator, I know for sure I cannot create without making a mess. So I now fully embrace my messiness. I fully embrace that I'm disorganized. I fully embrace that I get paint on the floor and, nobody's going to buy the house because there's paint on the floor. And I'm like, I don't care. I'm not selling the house. It's my office. I can get paint on the floor. I'm not in trouble. But it took me years to be neutral to me getting paint on the floor.
It's interesting you share this story because I started taking painting lessons, oil painting lessons, like 2017. And I was working on a piece, and the teacher said to me, wow, you really trust your imagery. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I said, don't most people? She's like, oh, no, they're afraid to even touch the canvas. I'm like, well, if I hate it, I can just burn it. She goes, oh, that's the right attitude. I said, yeah, what do I care? It's practice. But I realized the reason I had levity there is when I was a child, my mother gave my sister and I the master bedroom. And she said, you can do whatever you want with this room. Just don't blow it up. You can draw on the walls. You can do whatever you want. Just don't do it anywhere else in the house. This is your space to create. And we had that room for, I don't know, 7, 8 years where we just took it over, right? It was graffiti everywhere. We had dollhouse, every kind of toy. And I think that you bringing, in a sense, the consciousness of that kind of freedom to make a mess in a space of one's own without criticism, without punishment for adults helps reset that inner critic, because that's what stops people from experimenting, don't you think? Is
Yeah.
the fear of retribution for not getting it right. And you can't get it right if you can't do trial and error.
Right.
You
Right. And
have
how
to
many
make lots of
times,
mistakes.
right. How many times have we, or have I, done something and I had no idea it would look like that? Like it's a mistake, but it actually turns into this incredible thing that I
Right,
couldn't have done with my conscious mind.
right,
I use
right.
a ton of water. I spray the canvas. I put stuff on. I wipe it off. I watch my own judgy self. And then I turn the canvas this way. I turn it the other way. I paint with my non-dominant hand. And all of a sudden I see things that I couldn't have created. I didn't set out to do anything realistic. And I think I'm also, disrupting this conditioning that says the reality is, because most people live in the reality is, which is the world that has already been created by other people. And I feel like it's like sitting in an obstructed view seat in a theater. You're not seeing the potential energy in everything to become the next thing,
Yeah.
right? If you're only looking at what's already been created, you're looking at the past. You're basically looking at artifacts. You're looking at relics. You're looking at a museum. And that doesn't give you permission to create something. All you can do is react to what's already been done. So I love this conversation about creativity and permission and mess making.
So before we look at your human design chart, will you share with us one of your favorite money transformation stories? Like someone came to you and they're all got their knickers in a knot about money. And then what happened working
One
with
of my
you?
favorite money transformation stories was with a client a couple of years ago, and we had a VIP day in a castle. And it was really great. It was snowing. We were in Garden of the Gods, and we were in this old stone castle. And I remember we were sitting in this library that had a huge stone fireplace, and it had a whole bunch of dead animals on the wall. And we mapped out her business, like what was her business going to look like for the next year. And what was she going to offer? What was the price point? How many times was she going to offer it? And she very quickly saw in this map making process that we did together that she could get to $200,000 without doing a whole lot of work. And she did it. And like the next day she turned $18,000, and then it was another, and then it was another. And then like she got to 200,000 and she was like, okay, I'm done. I really like my free time. The other part of that VIP day, it was snowing, and we went out walking, and we were making snow angels. So it was very embodied. And there was a third part of that VIP day, which was that somehow I had lost my glasses. We'd moved from where we were on a retreat to a castle, which is where her VIP day was after the retreat. And I'd left my glasses at the retreat space. And I called the retreat space and I said, do you have my glasses? And they said, no, I can't drive without my glasses. And it was a blizzard. It was a white out blizzard. And I had to say to my client, you drive. So it was this unintended but beautiful opportunity for her to take the wheel and for her to drive. And we could only see about 10 feet in front of the road, which is a great metaphor for mindset, because you really only need to see about 10 feet, and then you do the next step, and then you do the next step. And on her questionnaire, I always have them do a questionnaire, and I say, what do you want on your VIP day? And she said, I love roller coasters. I would like a roller coaster for my VIP day. And I said, well, it's the middle of winter. I don't know if I can make that happen for you. However, because it was the middle of a blizzard and it was a whiteout, my car, was sliding all over the road. So she actually got a little bit of a roller coaster experience. And because it was embodied, because there was a lot of adrenaline, because it was really fun, because it was in a castle, because we were making snow angels, the transformation happened really quickly for her. It was embodied, her nervous system relaxed and had fun, and she made a bunch of money in the process. And she is still continuing to have multiple six-figure years.
So that sounds like a delicious day. And I'm wondering, what was the negative construct she brought to you that was causing her to feel limited in her earning potential?
There were a lot of things going on for her. Some of it was, I don't know what to do, right? Like I just can't see it. I just can't see what are the things that I would need to do.
Like the blizzard.
Yeah. Like
Look at
the
you
blizzard.
manifesting. Well, we'll just give it to you in real time.
Right. And you're going to be driving the car. You're going to be
Because you're blind. So give you the wheel. Oh, it's so
right.
genius. Anyway, keep going.
Right. And
I'm like, I love the universe. It's like so perfect.
Right. It's so perfect. I couldn't have created that on my own.
Right, right.
That. And it also, because I didn't have my glasses, it meant that I wasn't controlling everything. And when you're not controlling everything, you realize that there's so much co-creative energy available for you, right? And it put her in the driver's seat of her life. I had not intended to put her in the driver's seat of her life in that way. I had intended to have an amazing day with her, but it just so happened the way the constellation of experiences unfolded was that she was driving in a blizzard, and it was super fun for both of us. Super edgy.
It occurs to me too that experience energetically gave her the transmission or transfer of your faith in her.
Yeah.
To like, it made you equals. Like, yeah. You were in a vulnerable position.
Yeah.
And dangerous too.
Yeah.
And so it showed that you had real situational awareness, that you knew how to take care of yourself, and you're willing to ask for help and be vulnerable. And you modeled all of that and gave her authority and trust to finish off this process with you. And it's like nature orchestrated the healing with the two of you.
Yeah, it was a huge, huge invitation for trust. When someone says to you, I trust you, I trust you. This is what confidence is. Confidence
Mm-hmm.
literally means with faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
believe it gave her the experience of, wow, I must be trustworthy. This is huge. And I was vulnerable. And, it wasn't about me. It was about her receiving this next level trust. And so I think that happened. Yeah. That was
All right.
beautiful.
So I'm going to pull up your chart. And
Okay.
before I do, with every guest, I love to ask, is there something in your life that either is a struggle or frustration, an annoyance, or is there some area in your life you'd like more insight, more expansion, more another perspective?
I would love more expansion in this next phase of my business. I'm
Okay.
super
And
excited about it, and I trust that it's happening. And I'm always open to receiving the new information.
okay, great. And when you talk about next phase in your business, what does that mean to you?
Well, I'm at a place in my business right now where I feel completely free, or like 98% free, mostly free of I need money to feel any particular way. I have now had plenty of experience of six-figure launches and plenty of experience of crickets. And I feel just as joyful and enthusiastic and exuberant. I do not feel controlled by money. Money doesn't need to be present for me to feel awesome. Money doesn't need to not be present for me to feel terrible.
Uh-huh.
Like I really feel like I'm inhabiting me and my design in a soul-rich way that is spacious and it's multidimensional and it's earth, water, fire, air, the all that is. I feel more cosmic than ever and more grounded than ever. And so that feels really free and fun for me.
Mm. Okay. All right. Let me get your chart. That's super helpful. All right. You see your chart?
Uh-huh.
Okay, great. All right. So your expansion. Okay. So first things first, your incarnation cross, which is the life purpose aspect of human design. And you're the left angle cross of refinement. So what you lead with is actually a very interesting conundrum because our personality sun is 70% of who we are and the energy we emit. And so people are drawn to our personality sun frequency. And it is, it's what Richard Rudd, who's a great human design innovator, calls our brand or our life's work. And you're in gate 33, which is in many ways a storytelling gate about the past from the perspective of collective, tribal, and individual frequencies, because it's in the collective circuitry, just like those paintings you showed, where you're drawing on ancient knowledge. And then through your unique prism, you're leading us into the future by understanding where we came from. And that is your brand. You are a leader who helps people take a retreat, because gate 33 is a retreat. 33 says, whoa, slow down. Go inward. Go be by yourself for a while. Connect with your muse. And you're a line 5, right? Like me. So you're a heretic. Yes? And the heretic is a leader who says, yeah, I know you believe all that about the past. However, what if we reframe it this way? Then we have a different perspective. So the thing about you is that everything you do has this provocative quality in this really ironic way where it's asking people to step back, be quiet, go in, play around, escape the madding crowd, let go of social approval, at least just for today. Right? Let go of the need to be right. Let go of the need to know 100 yards in front of you. Let go of the need to be in control. Let go of the need to see. Just be in your own energy and see what that wants to create. So you're modeling it from your own retreat, and then you help others basically have permission. What is it? Well, if we look at your personality earth, the personality earth is the life lesson or evolution spot in our chart. And so what you're learning on an individual level to be a leader is that you have a right to get your own needs met. Because with gate 19, you're incredibly sensitive to the needs of others. Mm-hmm. So as a little girl, you're painting in the corner and not feeling included. Your sensitivity to that could make you be concerned about the other people. Mm-hmm. Like, I'll put down my paints because it's bothering them. It bothers me, but it bothers them more. And that's kind of what you're going on there, because that's your design, because you're really here to be a heretic leader. And it is transpersonal in the sense that you're the marketing department for what the others have figured out. And then you're the one who's like, oh, that's fascinating. I want to share this insight with the masses. But in order to do so, you have to be very sensitive to your own needs so you don't get burned out. And this also makes you very sensitive to the needs of others. And that's the double-edged sword, because you're always seeking harmony with this kind of design. You're always trying to take not too much, not too little, just right. My teacher, Richard Unger, calls that the Goldilocks rule. Not too much, not too little, just right. Mm-hmm. And that's your personality. So this is who you think you are, who other people think you are, but it's really the personality. It's the mind that's designed to connect with others. So the way you connect with others is by helping them stop for a minute. Go, yeah, I can take a break. I can play. You're the permission to play person. And play with what? Well, if we go over to your design, what keeps you healthy is creating a new prosperous direction for humanity by receiving messages from the universe, because it's a line 1. This is about your relationship with you. Every 5-1 who's correct, Madonna, Paul McCartney, Taylor Swift, you, and I'm also a 5-1. Our job fundamentally is to discover line 1, who we are as unique individuals, and embody the line of the hexagram over here. The 5th line teaches the lesson of the hexagram. And you are here to teach the mistakes and the lessons from history, our story, her story, and innovate and make it better, right? Go into a better future because we've learned the lessons from the past. And it's through your own unique individual process, because that's the beauty of the 5-1. So if you think about someone like Madonna, she said very early on, I'm going to be famous. And so her inner process was, I'm going to be famous. And she just kept changing her identity. Taylor Swift, I'm going to be famous with my music. She just keeps reinventing her identity. And you are here as an artist, reinventing your identity. Your core genius is line 1, right here off the G center, self-expression, the artiste. And so the breakthrough in your life is recognizing, I, Deborah Fryer, am an artist. And so are you if you want to be. And so are you if you want to be. If you want to be. Mm-hmm. So the more you make art, just because it brings you fulfillment and joy, the more you make art, the more the people around you, by witnessing you, say, I can make art. So Taylor Swift's medium is music, but music isn't her purpose. Her purpose is to empower people to find their own music. And in doing so, she's changing economies. That's the power of being true to one's calling, right? Madonna is a pop star, but her real calling is to provoke and incite people to root out all the dark shadows in themselves and put that into their creative expression so they don't use it to harm people. That's really her purpose. Paul McCartney, his purpose is to spread love. Your purpose is to say to people, making art will heal you and everyone else. Creating beauty heals. And it integrates. And we don't have to talk about it. We don't have to re-traumatize ourselves. We can release all our negative emotions through creativity. I know it works for me. Play the piano, go dancing, painting. I'm better. And wasn't it that it's an ancient Native American saying, and I forget who says it, but it's an indigenous saying to North America, that maybe it isn't. Anyway, it's a shamanic saying, right? And the shamanic saying goes something like, you are sick. And you are sick. And when you are sick, ask yourself these questions. When was the last time I stopped dancing? When was the last time I stopped singing? When was the last time I stopped painting? When was the last time I stopped loving? I return to my creative self and I am healed. I am whole. I am complete.
Mm.
And so I want to offer to you that meta message, Deborah, because you're a 5-1 and the 5-1 is here to really have that 15 minutes of fame. You know, I was thinking about Andy Warhol and his 15 minutes of fame last night. And I thought, this is it. This is it. We're living it. Every single person has a chance to be famous, but the 5-1 has a chance to universalize a new awareness and change consciousness. Right? Paul McCartney and the Beatles, they change people's consciousness. Madonna changes people's consciousness. You change people's consciousness. And you do it by being really self-absorbed. And the more you self-absorb into your process and then share, the more profound the impact. And that's why as a 5-1, I'm going to stop the share. I want to just look and I want to grab a few thoughts here. That's why as a 5-1, you have this duality where you need all this alone time, right, to be in your creative process. But then the 5 is the frequency of sound. When we talk about going 5D, fifth dimension, we're talking about fifth line profile. And 5D is sound. What does this mean? Well, the only way to mutate the individual is through sound. So when you talk to your audience about your creative process, you activate them. You activate them. And the other thing is your audience happens to be, this is so interesting. Your audience is actually very logical, orderly, successful people who might say something to you like, I don't have a creative bone in my body. I can only draw a stick figure. Why would I pursue art? There's no money in that. And then you come along and you're like, well, I'm here to initiate you. So your interaction with the public and your audience and your clients, it's alchemy, but it's a gentle alchemy. It's a patient, motherly, you've got all the time you need alchemy. You know, some people's alchemy is like getting hit by a 2x4, right? Like ayahuasca is a certain kind of alchemy that if you're not ready for it, can do damage if you're not really properly prepared for it. But you come in and you're like this tender mother who says, hey, all that logic's fine and all this initiation's fine. Yeah? So where'd you go? Where are you right now? You seem like you've left your body. Where'd you go?
I'm right
Where
here.
are
I'm
you?
listening to what you said.
What were you doing? You were multitasking. What were you doing?
I was writing down some of the things that you said.
Okay, good. You were taking notes.
Yeah. And, you know, I do hear sometimes I don't have a creative bone in my body.
Yeah.
And my response as a multidimensional being is you're creating yourself all the time. You know, your hair is growing out all by itself. Your fingernails are growing all the time. You're creating new versions of you, new cells, new ideas. You're creating food, you're creating your environment. There is nothing that you are not creating. And it's really a perspective shift of who created your space, who created your wardrobe, who created your meal, who organized your cabinet. You know, like something is creating you from the inside out. You get a paper cut and your body knows how to create new skin. You have a scar, your body knows how to create, you know, a callus over a part of you that's showing you, hey, you know, you're stronger than you think you are. You're more powerful and capable. And I'm here to remind you, like I'm here creating this beautiful vessel for your soul to live in. Like there's no part of you that's not creative. You are made of creativity. And you know, just like money, we have this perception that money is this thing that somebody gives you and somebody assigns you your value. That couldn't be farther. That's such a load of BS, right? And we think that creativity is this thing out here that some people have and some people don't. That's also BS. every single one of us is creating by using our creativity, which is the energy we're made of. I mean, energy is creating. It can neither be transformed, it can neither be created nor destroyed, only transformed. So we're always transforming energy. You eat a carrot, it turns into eye cells. You eat a walnut, it turns into brain cells. How does your body do that? How do you eat food and then you create more of yourself? Like, that is incredible creativity. You are made of it. There's no part of you that's not creative.
I was thinking about what you just said, and this thing came through that you are teaching people that art is not an extracurricular activity that's nice to have. Art is literally the center of the center.
Yeah.
And you can prove it to people because you're able to walk between worlds, between the abstract and visible and the logical, practical, and pragmatic. And you can take the most stubborn, logical, I need proof person, and you have the capacity to actually change their mind. And that's a certain kind of brilliance right there, Deborah, because most humans do not have the power to change people's minds or open people to new perspectives because they don't have 100% confidence in their own design, their own frequency. Mm. Or it's a collection of like we're a collection of selves, we're a collection of expressions. I mean, we have infinite selves, actually. The more you become aligned with yourself, there's no end to what you can become and express. You transcend your design, you transcend any personality system, but it still serves as a guideline because we are all in a kind of timeline and we have a fractal family, right? And we have a mission we came here to do. So the way I look at these systems is it helps weed out what isn't the mission so that all of our energy can be gathered and truly harvested to nourish ourselves and the other.
Yeah.
And you, to me, are, what's her name? Who is the goddess of the harvest? Why am I forgetting her name? Ceres. Yeah, the goddess of grain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The goddess of grain, Ceres, is also related to the goddess Moneta, who is the goddess of money, because grain shows us the whole cycle of creativity. And this is part of the misinformation, the misperception we have about creativity. We think creation is the thing that rises up that you can see. This is, in the same neighborhood of the reality is. We think it's that, but what happens to the grain? It grows, and then there's this Lakshmi moment where it's all harvested, and then it lies fallow, right? It drops into the field. And that Kali, that dissolution, that destruction is actually part of the creative life force.
That's right.
The making mess part is the Kali part. And I really had to embrace that my creativity, the place where I'm most creative is in making a mess. When I make amazing food, it's because I, use every pan and I use every bowl and I make a giant mess in the kitchen. And my husband is like, "Oh my God, sweetie, you made just a mess." And I'm like, "Yes, I did." And how delicious is this meal that we're eating?
Now taste this.
Right?
The person has an orgasm. They're like, "Okay, you can make a mess."
Look at sex. Sex is messy, right? If you want to have awesome sex, it's probably going to be messy.
It's quite messy.
Probably going to be wet.
Yeah.
It's probably going to make a mess, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you pick, like if for me, I know that I came in with this message that we are creativity, which includes the mess, it includes the perfection, it includes the I don't know how, and I'm going to make it up. Right. Part of like when people are like, I don't know how, I'm like, woohoo, you get to make it up. Isn't it awesome that you don't know how? You get to create it. Isn't that liberating?
So
you don't
delicious.
have to do it the way they did it.
Oh, so delicious. All right. So before we wrap up, I'm like, wow, we did really well. We're so efficient. I feel like we've been talking for 3 hours. Time, have you noticed lately? Is it me? Or does time just feel like it's bending and stretching and compressing? And I don't even know what it's doing. Can you tell us what is time doing right now?
When we're not operating from the mind operates in a very horizontal reality. Oh, today, and then this hour, and then this, and then this, and if this, and then this, and it operates in a very linear way, often looking at the past and then rubber stamping the past. And then I have the future that looks exactly like the past because I'm operating in a horizontal reality. We've been in a vertical reality, which is you mentioned 5D, it could be 9D. It's however many dimensions out we want to go, because we're multi-dimensional, because we're both the rigidity of earth, and we're the solidity, the flexibility and fluidity of water, and we're the transformative passionateness of fire, and we're the spaciness like we're of air. Like we're really embodying all of the multidimensional frequencies, and as eternal soul, vast, infinite cosmic consciousness, there's no time. We made that up down here. That's something that we made up down here on the earth plane. And it's a both and. So we're both looking at the clock, which is in the horizontal frequency. And we're also having this wide ranging, vast, multidisciplinary associative conversation that's in a vertical dimension. That's why time is like, that's what I think.
You are awesome. I love you so much for showing up and being able to explain so simply these concepts that people take an entire book to try and explain. And you say it in 3 sentences, and I go, oh, yeah, I can get with that. I've experienced that.
I'm one of those people who's trying to write an entire book to try to explain this.
Yeah, I mean, you could, but maybe your book is like explain all of it, like put all of it in one book. Like you can do each of it in a chapter. Like you just explain spiral dynamics in like a couple pages. And then you can explain all the things you shared today and just give people a little bit more, give them an exercise. I feel like you are able to make things so simple that it's almost like a prompt to go try it. Like you're giving people permission to step away from the linear conditioning, hitch onto my train and we'll go to the promised land bullshit. And you're actually giving people an opportunity to figure out, well, what is my reality? What is my reality? Separate from everybody else's reality. What is true for me? And only until we find that can we even integrate with others anyway, in an authentic way.
It's so cool what you just said. What is my reality? Like, I don't think most people stop long enough to think about this and to recognize that each one of us, it's like we're all walking around in our own hermetically sealed astronaut space helmet. And the way that I see the world, I'm the only one on the planet who sees it the way that I see it.
That's right.
And it's amazing to me that there is a significant percentage of people who agree upon reality. Like we don't agree on what color blue is, right? I mean,
there's infinite shades of blue. If you want to get technical, there's no one shade of blue. You can go into infinity just with the color blue.
Right. And all of our icons and rods are very different. This other painting that I showed you of the little baby sleeping, when I started that painting, I started with, I'm going to pick a color for my body. I'm going to pick a color for my mind, and I'm going to pick a color for my soul. Those were my initial instructions to myself. And the color I picked for my mind, the color I picked for my body was Prussian blue. And I wondered, I wonder why you picked that color. So I Googled Prussian blue. It turns out it's a made up color that has a lot of, I think it's copper in it. And it was discovered accidentally because it has a lot of iron in it, because human blood got mixed in, which is why Prussian blue is the color that it is. And
you're weirding me out right now.
What'd you say?
I don't mean to interrupt you, but you know what my favorite color was as a child?
Was it Prussian blue?
Yep.
Yeah.
I looked at that color. I'm like, that's not like any other color. It's so rich and deep. Why? Go on.
And it's so rich and deep. And I didn't know subconsciously why I was so attracted to that color, but it is your body. The blood in your body, the iron in your body was emitted 13.8 billion years ago.
Is that why your blood looks blue on your skin, but is red in your body? Because the veins look almost Prussian blue.
Yes. That's why. When it gets oxygenated, when it gets gets exposed to air, then it turns a color that we call red. So the second color that I picked, speaking of red, this was my soul color, and I picked the color magenta. And again, I wondered, why did you pick that color? Like, I'm very much what you described, which is there's a part of me that's really logical that wants to know why is it the way that it is, which you identified. I'm a vibrational match for the people that I attract. They're super logical. Like they want, like, show me evidence for why you did that. So I did the thing subconsciously. I put it on the canvas. I looked at it, and then I wondered, why did you pick magenta? So I Googled magenta to learn about magenta. Well, guess what? That's my soul color. Magenta is not visible to the human eye. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how brilliant is the subconscious mind, right? That I plugged into a level of consciousness that is not perceptible to our human physiology. Like the reality that we're walking around with, the cones and rods, cannot see this particular color in the spectrum. And our brain makes something up, right? We can see all the way down to red, orange, Roy G. Biv, red, orange, green, yellow, indigo, Roy G. Biv, blue, indigo, violet. But there are a whole bunch of frequencies that we can't see. Infrared, ultraviolet, X-ray, gamma ray. Magenta is in those frequencies that we can't actually see. So I thought that was also super cool. I don't know how we got onto this color thing, but
Oh no, I love it. I love talking about color because when I first started learning oil painting, the paints would make me cry. Like the color, because I would buy those really pricey mineral oil paints that are made right from the earth pigments.
Yeah.
And when I put them on my palette and just look, I would just start weeping because the intensity of the color and the vibration, because it's from the minerals in the earth.
Yeah.
It's like its own kind of detox.
Yeah.
It's its own kind of encounter with the majesty of this planet and how Mother Earth is always providing us the resources to be creative.
Yeah. And you start vibrating in sync with the color, like the earth version of you, in the same way that when you play an instrument or in an orchestra and the instruments all start vibrating in sync with each other, your body will start vibrating in sync with the earth frequencies that you're putting onto the canvas. Did you paint that painting behind you?
No, my wonderful friend Nicole Alger did. And I'm so bad, I'm blanking on the name of it. But it's basically a young woman coming to the crone circle, and she's getting initiated into her healing gifts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Huh? No, I do have big paintings that I do, but the one's in my bedroom, and I'm working on another one over there. But I find it so cathartic, And I love other people's art too, because I change the background a lot. Like I'll keep a painting up for a couple months, but I'm an art collector and I have such a beautiful collection of art because I've been collecting art since my 20s. I mean, really nice art. It's like pretty epic collection now. And so I will change out the art behind me just to have a different frequency. So as I've had Nicole's painting behind me, it's like I'm communing with Nicole's spirit and what she's channeling through. And she was trained in Italy. She's an award-winning painter. Her paintings are in galleries and homes all over the world. And that's like what she does with her life is make art and do spiritual work. And, so having her frequency behind me is like permission almost, like create, create, create.
I love knowing this about you. I didn't realize that you were a painter.
Well, it's funny when you say it like that. It's like I don't feel like I'm a painter. I feel like I'm a person who enjoys painting. Right? Like maybe, I guess because I paint, I'm a painter. It's sort of like being a writer. You got to write. I write a lot, so that makes me a writer. Or I talk a lot, that makes me a talker. But yeah, thank you for that. I think what you're doing, and I feel this so deeply in my body, is you're allowing people to bring the sacred and the sensual together. Because you're right, that messiness is so connected to the divine feminine, birth, right? Children eating in their high chairs. Like there's so much to our journey that is just messy.
And being a business owner is messy.
Oh God. Yeah.
It's been really liberating as a business owner to make a mess and to not know everything and to, there have been times in my business where I'm just crying and I take it to the canvas and I put a lot of water on the canvas and the canvas is crying, and it's just so cathartic of like, I don't know what to do here, like my heart is breaking and I don't know what to do here, and just to let it be. Right? I
Yeah.
don't have to fix everything, and
No.
there's nothing wrong here. And, I think part of a real disservice to entrepreneurs is this idea that it has to look perfect, that the website has to be perfect, that the copy has to be perfect, that the funnel has to be perfect. And, authenticity is perfect and authenticity is messy.
Yeah, well, perfect is the mind, because the mind can visualize, um, perfection, and then that's the divine masculine. Like, here's an idealized vision, and then the feminine energy in us says, well, let's see what we can do.
Mm,
And it's almost like perfection is a jumping off point
mm,
in initiation.
mm.
Perfection's at the beginning, not at the end.
Yeah, I love that. When I think about the word perfection, I think about the etymology of the word, which means thoroughly done, means thoroughly completed. And so I agree with you completely that perfection is the jumping off point. It's where we are now, and then it's where we are now, and it's where we are now. So from that perspective, every moment is perfect, right? I've done this much up until this moment. I've learned this much up until this moment. I know this much up until this moment. And what am I going to create with it next?
Yeah,
It's,
and thoroughly done is death. It's death. It's the
mm,
end. When you're
mm,
thoroughly done, you're over. And that's why perfection, trying to become perfection in the 3D, is a losing battle. It's sort of like the woman who can't accept her aging, or the man who can't accept that he's not a Svengali at 57 years of age or whatever. Like, those people, we feel sorry for them because they're not flowing with life. They're resisting life. And
mm.
they think that if I could just stay perfect, everything would be okay. But it's an illusion.
Yeah, that's one of the paradoxes of living in a human body is the brain likes everything to stay the same, right? We have this homeostasis, where our pH is roughly the same and our weight is roughly the same, and our blood pressure and our heart and all that stuff. Like the body wants, the brain wants to keep everything the same, and yet the reality of form is it is constantly dissolving and becoming something new. Your hair grows and it falls out in the drain, and more grows and more falls out and it's in the drain, right? Like everything, life is cycling through us all the time, and the only part of us that is unchanging is the eternal soul creative part of us.
Yeah. I was thinking about tradition and evolution, and how really good traditions are those things that our ancestors figured out that work really well, that really support the self and the community, like eating properly for yourself, getting enough rest for yourself. Um, I don't know. Meeting in a prayer circle to pray for someone who's not well, right? So there's certain traditions that really support the individual and the community.
Mhm.
And yet there's got to be enough flexibility to allow for mutation. And where we get into trouble, and I think we're seeing in this in the world, and I've written about this, the rigid extremist groups of people are unable to allow for any deviation from what they determine as perfection.
Mhm.
And therein lies the seeds of violence.
Mhm.
Because trying to create perfection in the 3D is destruction.
Mhm.
So I'm so happy for what you're doing. I will put all the links with the podcast. Will you share, before we go with everyone, a final inspirational thought for today?
Yeah, the one that drops in is one from, I think her name is Muriel Rukeyser. I might even have it right here. And she says, the universe is made of stories, not of atoms. The universe is made of stories, not of atoms. And this speaks to what we've been talking about in this whole conversation? You know, what's the story that we're telling ourselves? Because we're creating each moment based on a story that we're telling. And that story either is a recreation of the past, or it's a creation of something new and unexpected that we've never experienced before.
I have a tagline for you. Using your past to paint a new story. What you just described, that quote, is literally your brand.
It
It's
literally,
literally about stories. Your brand, Gate 33, is about stories, and it's about taking the best from the past and then adapting it to the time that we live in. So
yeah.
Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you. What a rich conversation. I just appreciate and adore you so much.
Likewise. I hope you come back. Bye, everyone. We'll see you soon.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Align to Your Design. If you did, please grab my free report, Business by Design, at yourpurpose.com, and then join our Facebook group, Align to Your Design. See you next time.